Hi guys, and I'm going to offer you my review of Terminator Genisys, which is the fifth entry in the venerable sci-fi action franchise. Um, okay, so the previous film was 2009's Terminator Salvation, which was intended to restart the series and give it some new life. It was an audacious idea, and it kind of took the series in a new direction. And no Arnold Schwarzenegger except for a CGI likeness of him imposed over another actor's face towards the end of the film as the T800 model comes online in the factory. And the effect didn't quite work. It looked kind of fake. Um, the film didn't fare very well with critics or at the box office, although I thought it was a fairly enjoyable film. Um, this film tries to take the series back to its roots. It's kind of a reboot of the series, similar to the 2009 Star Trek film for that series. So it creates a new timeline via time travel. The Terminator series has always played around with timelines and screwed around with the timeline. So Terminator 2 kind of rewrites the ending of Terminator 1. The original Terminator ends with this kind of bleak ending, like Judgment Day is inevitable. And Sarah says a storm is coming, and you see like the thunder clouds in the distance, and you just know that Judgment Day is going to come inevitably. And Terminator 2 kind of reverses that. They go and destroy Cyberdyne systems, and they avert Judgment Day. And, although Terminator 2 is a classic film, I always felt that it felt like it kind of betrayed the original movie in some ways. And Terminator 3 kind of brought back the spirit of the first film, had that really dark, bleak ending with John Connor and Kate Brewster in the nuclear bunker, and as Judgment Day happens around them and the world is destroyed, and you just know that the end is going to happen. It's futile to try and resist it. You can't stop Judgment Day, just postpone it. And Salvation was a direct carry-on from Terminator 3, and this film kind of goes back to all the way back to the beginning. It kind of rewrites the entire timeline. So, Carl, in the beginning of this movie, Carl Reese is sent back in time to protect Sarah Connor, as he is in the original film. So he arrives in an altered timeline. He arrives in a timeline where Sarah Connor has already been prepared. She's already combat ready. She's already a fighter. And she doesn't have to be trained by him. And it turns out that a Terminator went back into her childhood, and it's been protecting her since she was a child. And she's already battle hardened when he arrives. And there's an interesting scene which kind of is like a reboot. It's like a remake of the beginning of Terminator 1, where the Terminator comes up to the punks, and they say, nice night for a walk, eh? The scene when they pull a flick knife on him and he steals their clothes. They redo that scene, and then it's revealed that and there's another Arnold Schwarzenegger there, an older Terminator, and he fights the younger version of himself. And from there on, the timeline splinters off into a new direction and changes. And the film is kind of like a greatest hits highlight reel of Terminator 1 and 2 particularly. Lots of moments from the first two films. Tons of in-jokes for fans. There's a T-1000, not played by Robert Patrick, but by another actor. And the trailers are kind of misleading, because they make you think that the T-1000 is the main antagonist of this film. And he actually isn't. The main antagonist is actually John Connor himself. There's a character in the trailers played by Matt Smith, who was the 11th Doctor Who. He wasn't in the trailers, but he's actually a very important character in this film. He plays like the physical manifestation of Skynet itself in Terminator form. And just before Carl jumps back in time, Matt Smith's character infects John Connor with this insidious Terminator, which kind of like takes over human bodies, this kind of human Terminator hybrid, turning him into a cyborg, essentially. And so John Connor is sent back in time to infiltrate and attack his mother and father. So it's an interesting twist for the series to take. So you originally had John Connor sending Carl back to protect Sarah, and this time he's protecting Sarah against him, against John Connor. So it's a unique twist, and even James Cameron thought it was an interesting twist. Apparently James Cameron quite liked this film. The film has received some negative press and negative feedback, although I quite enjoyed it. It's not in the league of the first two, although I think it's an improvement on Terminator Salvation, which was a misguided, if audacious attempt to try and reboot the series. I enjoyed Terminator 3, and this one I'd probably put about on the same level as Terminator 3, but not in the league of the first two. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's a bit more PG-13 than some of the previous entries. Terminator 1 and 2 in particular were quite brutal films. This one, the violence and gore is a bit more toned down, and the nudity and the language is, more family-friendly. And so you know what you're expecting when you go to a Terminator film. You expect lots of special effects, lots of noise, lots of explosions, lots of gunfire, and it delivers all of that. And it delivers all of the lines you'd expect. All of the "come with me if you want to live," "I'll be back." So they're all present in this film. Some want the series to break out from its shackles and try and break new ground. But I can see why they want to bring back some of the hallmarks of the series because, fans expect them. Fans expect to see certain things when they go and see a film of this nature. And they'd be upset if it wasn't there. Terminator Salvation felt a bit too much like it was going in a new direction. Like there wasn't enough Terminator-ness in the film. The film sees some classic characters return. So Miles Dyson, who you might remember from Terminator 2, is back. The creator of Cyberdyne and Skynet. He's back in this film, but only briefly. It's like a short cameo appearance. Cyberdyne is back, though. He's not played by Joe Morton from Terminator 2. He's this time played by Courtney B. Vance. Kyle Reese is now Jay Courtney, who a lot of people don't seem to like in this role. I thought he was alright. He could have been a little more charismatic, though. Emilia Clarke now plays Sarah Connor. I thought she was great in this film. She does a really good job. She's kind of cute and, sensitive looking, but she's also tough. She does a really nice balancing job. I thought she was really good in this film. She actually looks a bit like Linda Hamilton from the first film as well. Jason Clarke now plays John Connor. There's been so many John Connors over the years, it's hard to keep track of them all. There was the little pregnant lump John Connor at the end of Terminator 1. There was Edward Furlong in Terminator 2. I think he was called Michael Williams, played the future John Connor in the future scenes in Terminator 2. Nick Stahl in Terminator 3 took over the role. Christian Bale in Terminator 4, Salvation. Thomas Dekker played the role in the Sarah Connor Chronicles television series. And incidentally, in that series, Lena Headey, Emilia Clarke's co-star in Game of Thrones, plays Sarah. So they both had their go at playing Sarah Connor. And finally, Jason Clarke played the role in this film. So there's been more John Connors than there's been Terminator films, essentially. And Clarke does a pretty good job, although it's quite a different take on the character than what you might have seen in previous films. He does a good job of what he has to work with. The film is directed by Alan Taylor, who's better known as a television director. He's directed episodes of Mad Men and Game of Thrones and Rome and shows of that kind, HBO dramas. He's directed a few films before, but he's not that experienced in cinema. He directed For the Dark World a couple of years ago. He does an adequate job, although it would be nice to see James Cameron one day return to direct another entry in this franchise. Apparently the rights for the Terminator series are going to revert to James Cameron in a few years' time. So maybe he'll get his chance finally to make another film in the series that he created. So I did enjoy it, although it's not as good as the first two, but then what is? It's still worth seeing. Don't let the haters sway you. Go and see it and make up your own mind. I thought it's enjoyable enough and worth going to check out in the cinema. I'd recommend going to see it at least once. You might need to see it more than once to work out what's going on, because there's a lot of convoluted time jumping and the story might take a bit of time to sink in. It would have been nice to see Dr. Silberman return in this film, who was in the first three movies, played by Earl Bowen. He was in, so he's in the first three films, and it would have been nice to see him show up in some form in this movie. He wasn't in it. Lance Henriksen and Paul Winfield, who were the detectives in the first movie, are also not in this film. We'd be nice to see their characters in this as well, even if they were recast. But alas, they're not. There's an interesting character played by J.K. Simmons, who So when he encounters Kyle and Sarah in 1984 at the beginning of the film, um, they save his life, and then they jump forward halfway through the movie to 2017, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's Guardian character, who guards Sarah Connor, takes the long road, so he just waits 33 years in real time, and that explains why he looks older later in the film. And where was I? Yeah, so J.K. Simmons' character remembers them from the past. He's kind of a character that's been obsessing about Terminators for the last 30 years. He's an interesting character if underwritten. If this film succeeds, they're planning some sequels, so I wouldn't mind seeing him in the sequels. And Arnold's already signed up for the first of the sequels. So I hope it does well enough to ensure some more sequels. It won't do as well as Jurassic World, I don't think. It won't be a major blockbuster. But I hope it doesn't fail. I really don't want this series to be on ice again for another 10, 12 years. Go and see it. I enjoyed it. I'm a big Terminator fan. I own all the other films and the Sarah Connor Chronicles series on DVD. Own all of it. I love the Terminator series. Go and check it out. This is Adam Walton signing out. I'll have some more reviews for you soon. Have a good evening, everyone.